Welcome and welcome back. This is video 5 of the B3C with me series. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm recording this and posting this on Saturday, February 21st. It's been a busy day, but an amazing day. And so I wanted to finish talking about continue on with the entry that I started the other day, which was on highlight the best, address the mess. And I believe in that video, I talked about affordable housing and its companion homelessness. I talked about public and private partnerships so we can get some sidewalks put in, that we can get the separation allowance for firefighters. And I believe I talked a little bit about upward mobility as well. And so just as a recap, like one of the ways to have truly affordable housing is to help those who are in it, and preferably those who have especially been in it for generations, move out. And a part of that is not just helping them to gain upward mobility through workforce development. It's actually about infinite and intrinsic development, because when you've been led to believe that all you're capable of achieving, or that all your worth is maintaining your affordable housing, then that's where our biggest challenges lie. Because people don't want to move out because it's comfortable, and they're willing to fly below the bar in order to stay in a place that might be uncomfortable but is familiar. And so that's really important to me. There's a whole aspect of healing that needs to go on in order for people to be able to move from that space and really commit to living the life of their dreams and be able to leave that life of poverty behind. Some other things that sit on my spirit is all this upzoning that's going on. When I originally presented this to Citizens Leadership Academy, this plan, it was originally called the Great Raleigh Buyback, because and I did this in December of 2024. It was originally called the Great Raleigh Buyback because I intended to use some of these funds to buy back from some of these developers that are just going into neighborhoods and doing whatever they want without consideration of the neighbors. The neighbors are going to the city. The city is saying they can't do anything. They're granting things, and people are upset. And there's this idea. I went to a meeting, one of the meetings I went to this past week. I literally had things back to back, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night. And on Wednesday, I went to this meeting that was for what they call a technical team. And these are people that were applied and were accepted to participate in this. It's a city initiative, and they're giving their thoughts about how the land should be used. And one of the statistics that they said was that in the next, I think by 2050, they were talking about, that they gave a certain time frame. And I want to say it was like the last 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years, something along those lines. But anyway, in that time frame, Raleigh has grown by 250,000. And I think it was by 2050, we should expect another 250,000. And so they're trying to, because there's no more land, right? No more land. They're trying to figure out how to densify everything, essentially. And there were people in there that were talking about, like, well, you should just allow it. Like, who cares? They have to deal with it. And I'm just like, wow, like, just callous. Like, and people, there's a couple of things that really bug me, because people think like this is what's going to eliminate homelessness. This is the key to eliminating homelessness: densify. And that's actually not what they said. They said in areas where there are less restrictions on zonings, there is a capacity for homelessness, because you can create more housing types. And so since there's no regulations on Airbnb, then when you go on Airbnb in Raleigh, you see all different types of housing types. You see people who have converted a garage, and it could be just a room with a bathroom, no kitchen, no nothing like that. It is not regulated by the city, so they just get to rent that for there's no hotel tax on it for them or anything else like that. They can rent it however they want. There was another listing where somebody has an RV, actually it's an Airstream like RV home, mobile home in their yard that they rent out. And I mean, we're talking $100 a night, like for these spaces, because people are coming into town. They don't need a kitchen or anything else like that. A microwave and a coffee pot or a coffee maker will do, you know? And so, and we don't realize that, but they can't make that a home, and they don't want to rent it as a home because they wouldn't get as much. I mean, who wants to, when you can make the potential of $100 a night, and that's $3,000 a month, and you only have to pay somebody $100 to clean, right? $125 every time you clean, depending on if you've gotten it like up and running, you got your system going, it's arbitrage and all this other stuff. And so, we have to be really careful because the purpose of this technical team is to make recommendations to the city council about the comprehensive plan, the next comprehensive plan, which is supposed to be from 2030 to 2050. We're in the midst of the one from 2010 to 2030 right now, and they're already zoning against it. They're zoning against it. Even though it's made with public input, they are zoning against it, against recommendations of the community. So that's like one of the things is, what can we do to get ahead of developers by developing what we want, right? Like buying the properties that we want, and then getting into neighborhoods and saying, hey, what would we bought this property. We're thinking of doing this with it. Would you feel comfortable with that? Like, but developers who are coming in here from out of state or anywhere else, they don't care about those things. They just want to build what they build, make a ton of money, and they could care less about the neighbors or the neighborhood. And there's at least 4 cases that I can think of where people's livelihoods, their homes, are being compromised because of the decisions that city council has made. And so part of this experience of B3C with me is so we can buy back properties, or just buy into properties that are going to be targeted by developers for development, extensive development that might ruin the character of the neighborhood. But we can put the density in a way that preserves the character, that makes it affordable, and also protects the neighborhood, right? It protects honors our neighbors. That's the phrase that I'm looking for. And so this is just another one of those things. It's kind of like part of that also is like just all of the gentrification that's been going on. The people who sold their properties for $200,000, $300,000 thinking that they were getting a whole lot of money, and the developers turned around, built density on it. So they turned one property into one single family home into 4 townhouses, and sold those townhouses at $500,000 each or something like that, and ended up making $1.5 million after all their investment. And so, like, in the people who got that $200,000, $300,000, if they were living here in Raleigh at the time, they can't afford to live here anymore, you know. And so, being able to have a whole section of B3C with me dedicated to that would be incredible. Just looking at properties and determining what's worth investing in. Where can we jump ahead of developers? Where can we buy back from developers? And so I know you guys are getting curious because all of this speaks money, 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 right? The last thing, though, I want to speak to really quickly is that along with that of preservation of properties is also the preservation of generational wealth. And being in the midst of my dad's property being in probate for the last 2 years, have passed in this April 2026. It will be 2 years since he's been gone, and his properties in Connecticut are in probate right now, and they have been, and it's a whole mess up there. But one of the things, even though he had a will, because it had never been updated since the late 90s, the judge wouldn't accept the will. And so there's a woman who married him when he was experiencing dementia. We finally got the financial statements. He had 3 IRAs, and combined they are less than, I think there was less than $5,000 between the 3 of them, after he had worked for the same company for almost 50 years. This is how this woman raped my dad while he was suffering from a mental illness. And so I am really passionate about helping our elders make sure that when it's time for them to transition, that their properties are handled correctly. And so I want to create a service. It doesn't matter who it is, just as long as they know that their property is going to go to their family in good hands, and that family can do whatever they want with it, but they're not going to lose it, because that is the biggest thing where especially people of color lose property is when a family member transitions, and when a family member transitions, how that property is handled by the court if the paperwork wasn't done properly. And so that's a huge piece. And so I know you're all listening to this. If you've been listening, you're just like, this stuff will cost money. And so I'm going to talk about one more thing tomorrow before I jump into where the money is going to come from. But we do need money, and that's going to be my impossible goal number 2. So stay tuned. There's more coming. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about Samaritan style. Thank you so much, and magnified success to you. Peace.